Here comes 18 people.
Okay. Wow, there's the list of folks. Hi, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for the official launch of Flat and Happy, the new Guide to Going Flat by Katrin Van Dam. She's joining us tonight to talk about the book, and we also have with us her advisors, Dr. Camelia Lawrence and licensed clinical social worker Wendy Myers. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end of this, so if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat. Okay, let's jump right in and start with Kat.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Before we get started, there are some folks that I need to acknowledge. The first of those being Kim herself. So those of you who know her primarily as an activist may not be aware that in addition to being an absolute force of nature and an amazing ally, she's also a gifted illustrator, you know, just like in her spare time. So in addition to doing the illustrations for this book, she also served as a sounding board throughout the entire process. She read every word of the book, gave me a lot of really useful and valuable feedback, and also introduced me to a number of my advisors. So I don't know if she knows that I refer to her as my flatty godmother, but this would not be possible without Kim. So Kim, thank you so much, not just for tonight, but for everything that you've done to make this book possible.
Oh, file that under a list of things I never thought I would hear.
I also need to acknowledge my two advisors, Dr. Camelia Lawrence and my clinical emotional support advisor, Wendy Myers. They're both on the call, as you know, and please, if you have questions for them, we will be doing a Q&A at the end, as Kim said, and you can just type right into the chat. They are a font of information and knowledge and kindness, so definitely make sure to send some questions their way. Next, I want to thank some friends and family, really many friends and colleagues and family who put so much effort and love into helping me research or helping me edit or even giving me design feedback along the way. I have to single out two particular people, my father, Andy Van Dam, who, much to my surprise, came on board as sort of a secondary editor on the book and pushed me, as he has been doing all my life, to make the book as good and clear as it could be. So thank you, Dad. And my wonderful husband, Tony Frost, who's the biggest cheerleader for this book and who is going to be monitoring the chat for the Q&A. So thank you for that, Bunny. My editor, Miriam King, and my designer, Jasmine Promjack, I'm not sure if they were able to join us tonight, but they made the book so much better than it would have been without them. So plus they were just an absolute delight to work with. So it was a really wonderful process. And definitely not least, although last, are the 16 women who shared their stories to include in the book. A few of them are on the call today. I have to say, those personal narratives are my favorite part of the book. They're just the heart of what I wanted to communicate. And I'm so grateful to these women for speaking up to help others navigate this journey. So I'm sure there's a lot of other people that I'm blanking out on, but thank you all for being here this evening. And I hope this is going to be fun.
Great. I'm really looking forward to these interviews. So my first question is for you, Kat. What made you want to write this book?
Excuse me. Okay, so when I was first diagnosed, we assumed that I was going to do the minimally invasive lumpectomy with radiation approach. And then it just happened that with further testing, we discovered that I actually had cancer on both sides. And then the plan changed to, I was not willing to do anything shy of a bilateral mastectomy. But what was interesting was that as soon as I made that decision, my surgeon started talking about reconstruction, like it was just an automatic default mode. You're okay, so you're going to have a mastectomy with reconstruction. And I was pretty sure I didn't want to have reconstruction, but you know, she made me go talk to a plastic surgeon, and all along the way, I kept thinking, I don't think this is for me. I don't want foreign objects in my body. I don't want to go through a bunch of additional surgery. And fortunately, I did end up listening to my gut on that, but I didn't have the affirmation of that choice that I really wanted to have. And I kept looking for a resource of some kind. Like, there's got to be a book out there that helps women make this decision. And at the time, Not Putting on a Shirt, which is Kimberly's organization, had a website, but it was nowhere near as robust as it is today. And honestly, if it had been, I might never have written the book, because if you look at the site today, it's got so much great information on it that I probably would have gone, oh, great, I'm all set. But it didn't exist at the time. And after my surgery, as I continued to learn more about the complications that a lot of women undergo or face with reconstruction, I just kept thinking, there are women coming after me who need that same resource that I didn't have. And if it doesn't exist, then maybe I ought to just try and see if I can create it myself. So that, yeah, that's how the book happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It was this resource that you needed that didn't exist, and you created it. So kudos to you for taking that extra step. And I know this was a big investment for you, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I had a lot of help.
Yeah, collaborative effort. So the book is divided into 3 sections. Was it always clear to you how to organize it?
Yes and no. I mean, I did always have this idea that there would be 3 sections. What those 3 sections were did evolve over time. And especially once my editor, Miriam, came on board, when we had the book finished, like all of the text was written, we basically disassembled the whole thing and put it back together again. But what I knew from the outset was that I wanted the book to sort of map to the timeline of a woman's journey, because, you know, when you've been diagnosed recently, you have so much to learn. There's so much information that you have to take on board. And most of that information is about your cancer, right? So you don't actually have that much bandwidth left over for the details of your surgery and deciding about things like reconstruction or not. So I wanted the book to be broken into sections that would correspond to when a woman needed the information. So up front, do I have a choice between mastectomy and lumpectomy? If so, what is everything that I need to know about that? Then originally I went into talking about the different reconstruction options. This is where Miriam was like, your book is called Flat and Happy. People who are buying this book want to know about going flat. Why are you talking about reconstruction first? Get right to the flat stuff first. So that was one of the big reorganizations that we made. The second part of the book is really about talking to your doctor, preparing for surgery, getting through surgery. And the third part of the book is living life as a flatty. So how is that going to impact the way you dress yourself or your most intimate relationships? And I figured that that was all information that would become useful at some point, but didn't necessarily have to factor into the decision-making. So that could be the later part of the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I always think of it as a technical guide to going flat, all comprehensive. And that's why you organize it that way. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So you opted to self-publish the book. Why is that?
Initially, we were looking for a publisher for it. So my agent shopped it around, and we actually got a lot of really nice feedback on the proposal. A lot of there were, of course, all the editors were women, because publishing is a very female-dominated field, and we were also singling out female editors for this topic. But a lot of these women were saying, oh gosh, that's such an important topic. And I really hope, one woman said, I hope the book gets published because I have friends I'd like to give it to, but I don't have room on my list for it. It was perceived as being too niche, in spite of it being, 1 in 8 women niche. So we did get one offer, and it was from a publisher that I wasn't familiar with, and they had some kind of unusual publishing model where they wanted to charge nearly $30 for the book. And that to me just felt like it defeated the whole purpose, because I wanted to get the book into women's hands. I wanted it to be accessible. And I don't know about you, but if a book costs $30 a paperback, I'm probably not buying it.
That's
so
for a lot of women.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was cost prohibitive. So I just thought, okay, self-publishing is a perfectly good option nowadays, and there will be a steep learning curve. I'm going to have to figure a lot of stuff out, but the great thing about self-publishing, especially for somebody who's a little bit of a control freak, is that you can control every step of the process. So you get to decide exactly how it's going to look. You know, you get to help design the cover. And if you don't like what it is, you can change it. And most importantly, you get to control when it's released, because when you're working with a publishing house, you're beholden to their schedules. So you could wait 1.5 years, 2 years after your book is complete before it's actually out on shelves.
Oh, wow.
And for me, there was this ticking clock of every day women are getting diagnosed with this and they need this resource, and I want it in their hands as fast as possible. So that was really the huge silver lining of self-publishing. The hard part of it is that you have to be really, you know, constantly driving the thing forward. And there's a real grassroots effort that now needs to happen to get the word out about it, because you don't have the muscle of the publisher behind you. But
yeah,
that's the trade-off.
Yeah. So the goal is to get it into women's hands, because every day when women are being diagnosed and facing this decision, and maybe they don't have this information, and it could change their life. Having this information could really change their life. So I guess my next couple of questions are for Dr. Camelia Lawrence. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself before I start grilling you? Oh, she's muted.
Whoop.
Can I unmute her?
There we go. Oh, whoops. Great.
Hi.
There we go. Hi.
Oh, we lost you again. I think the problem is both of you are doing it at the same time. Camelia, why don't you just unmute? Nobody else will touch it, and then we should be good. No. Tony, can you unmute her? Nobody else.
Tony might have to.
Yeah,
There
okay.
we-
Damn it.
Oh,
No.
what's going on? We're having technical difficulties here. Come on, Zoom.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
That's the magic combination.
All right. Good evening, everyone. And I'll start out by just commending Kat for taking the time to put together this practical guide that I think so many women are going to benefit from. I'm Dr. Camelia Lawrence, and I am a breast surgeon. I currently serve as the director for breast surgery in the Central Region for Hartford Healthcare. So I'm delighted to be a part of this very important conversation.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and for all of your assistance with the book. It wouldn't have happened without you. I know that for sure. So I guess my first question is, how did you get involved with the project? How did you come across Kat, or how did she come across you? What's the story?
So Kat has a phenomenal sister. Her name is Lori Van Dam. And I was the former vice president for Komen New England, the board of directors. And when I heard about Kat's initial diagnosis, Lori touched base with me as she was going through her treatment, and up in completion, when she decided that she wanted to write this novel or this guide, she connected Kat and I, and the rest is history. We hit it off right away, I would say.
Serendipitous.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in your foreword in the book that working on this book caused you to confront some of your own assumptions as a breast surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think when a woman embarks on the journey of making the decision regarding reconstruction or not, the pendulum, I think from a surgical standpoint, has shifted more towards opt-in for reconstruction. And there's historical context to this. In the past, women were denied. In fact, insurance companies did not cover reconstruction. It was considered to be cosmetic. And there's an entire story about it. So I think as clinician, once a woman decides that she's going to have a mastectomy, we're all, tend to be more biased to making sure that woman has the option for reconstruction if she so desire. So there's an automatic or reflex, so to speak, well-intended in most cases, to say, would you like to consult with a plastic surgeon so you can hear about your options for reconstruction? However, there are some women like Lori, like Kat rather, who comes in and they know up front that they do not want a reconstruction, and thus may not need that plastic surgical consultation. And it's important for us as surgeons, as clinicians, to step back and realize that the decision should be rooted in, in terms of focusing on the person that's most important, and it is the patient, and be able to listen so that you can hear when someone is saying, I know I have the option for reconstruction. I'm well informed. I'm going to bypass or forego reconstruction. I just want to focus on the oncological piece of my surgery.
Mhm. That's interesting. Thank you for that. So I guess my next question is for Wendy. Wendy, would you like to introduce yourself? Or, let's see.
Okay.
There's Wendy.
Here I am. Sure. Hi, I'm Wendy Myers, and I am a licensed clinical social worker in Pittsburgh. I have two hats. I work with a nonprofit called Cancer Bridges, which we provide free support services to cancer survivors and their family members. And then I have a private practice also where I see people with acute and chronic illness, caregiver support, grief and bereavement, and women's health issues. So I also am thrilled to be here and have so enjoyed meeting Kat and working with her. She's just a delight. So she's become a friend, not only as a coworker. So I just really appreciate that.
Thank you, Wendy. So you do work with a lot of women who are going through cancer diagnosis and treatment and recovery. So what made you want to work on this project about going flat in particular?
So actually, I had a connection with Kim, who then made a connection with Kat, and Kim educated me and motivated me, inspired me to be able to tell this side of the story to women and understand. I've worked in the field for 31 years with cancer, and this is something that women really don't know much about, don't talk much about, and certainly need to be educated about. And so I was very blessed to be involved in it. And truly, Kat has inspired me. Her and I have always said to her, I wanted to write a book. And so this process has helped educate me about exactly what she just explained to you about the process of writing a book. So it's been wonderful.
So maybe stay tuned for Wendy's next book.
There you go. In my next life now.
In all your spare time, I'm sure.
You got it.
So how did working on this book change the way you thought about your patients, or did it? And if so, how did it, and the choices they were faced with?
Absolutely. Not only, interestingly enough, since the book was published, have I not, taken consideration working with patients in terms of this topic, but I also have friends that are now being diagnosed. And, when they come to me for a surgeon, I automatically go into this discussion, so having this book to hand to these people is going to be such a treasure and such a resource. I mean, the one thing that I thought was fabulous about it was how many resources that were out there. And I said to Kat, I said, oh my goodness, this is like, social worker's dream to be able to disseminate this information and give a whole different perspective. So it has really changed, how I present support through counseling to my, my breast cancer patients, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting to hear. It is sort of something that's gotten more press lately, and this is just sort of part of the whole movement, right?
It is, there's so many, Kat and I have talked about as we were, editing the book together, is just, what people are told, and how they're told and when they're told. And so they need to know that there are many options available. The one thing I've found is that patients are a lot more educated and want to be educated than they were 30 years ago. And so the information really helps what I teach them how to advocate for themselves. Being an advocate is sometimes a matter of life and death for some people, not to be so extreme, but, in the career I've seen people not get the right information or not ask the right questions. So part of my counseling is my social work hat of teaching them how to advocate. And this book has been like, it's just kind of a guide that I can say, here's some information to help you learn how to be a good advocate for yourself.
Well, I know that I wouldn't be the advocate that I am today without you, Wendy.
Oh, Kim.
Just on a personal note.
You're near and dear to my heart.
Same here. All right, so my next question is for Kat. So just going a little bit more into the weeds of the book. So what's the biggest learning thing that you hope people are going to take away from it? Like, what's the takeaway that you want them to have?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's going to sound like I'm just copying Wendy, but yeah, the advocacy part is the self-advocacy part is for me the most important thing. I think as patients, and especially as women, we are raised to sort of respect authority and not question, and to do as we're told. And with your surgeon, if you have breast cancer, like obviously you have to trust your surgeon. If you don't trust your surgeon, then you probably should be finding a different surgeon. But that doesn't mean that you need to blindly go along with everything they say. And there are some things that are medical in nature, and then there are other things that are really personal choices, personal decisions. And I really want women to take this book and use it as a tool. So that's why so many of the chapters end with a checklist of questions. So, after going through a particular topic, we end on, and here are all the things that you should talk to your doctor about so that you really understand the decision that you're making, right? It's all about knowledge is power. So yeah, that's what I want people to take away from this. You can't just go along with what you're told. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to ask questions. Oops, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. I muted myself because my 6-year-old was giggling in the background, and then I couldn't unmute. Or I couldn't unmute myself. Yeah, I mean, I think the way the book is structured, just reading through it again just before our meeting, it's just so helpful. I can really tell that, I mean, just from reading it, even if I didn't know the background, it's really clear how much thought and effort really went into every detail of this book to make sure that you're meeting women where they're at, in order to, provide the maximum punch for that information to let them self-advocate. Very, very well designed. So nice work, Kat. So where can people get this book? Where do they buy your book?
Well, because it's self-published through Kindle Direct Publishing, it is available on Amazon. I have also just recently found that there's a setting that you can put on it that allows it to be distributed in other places, but I will be honest, I am not incredibly knowledgeable about that. So if anybody wanted to make a bulk purchase or something like that, they can always just contact me through my website, katrinvandam.com. I'm happy to figure out the logistics of that. I just haven't gotten there quite yet. So right now, through Amazon in ebook and paperback formats.
Komen and everybody else, are you listening? You can make bulk purchases through Kat. And give a copy to all the folks that are facing surgery. It's so important to have this information. So what can people do to help get the word out about going flat? You're doing your part to get the word out, writing this book. I'm doing my work. All the other advocates are doing their part. What can the people listening tonight do to help get the word out about going flat?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. There's a whole range of things that are super helpful. I will say again, because of self-publishing, it's a grassroots effort. So if anybody likes the book and wants to help support it, there's a few things they can do. The first is just, writing a review on Amazon or posting about it on social media is super helpful. And that's kind of like, baseline. Beyond that, if you go to your local library's website, they will probably have a tab that says something like recommend a purchase, recommend a book. You can do that. Yeah. There's a really wonderful woman who I gave an early draft of the book to because she was leading up to surgery in a couple of weeks, and she didn't have time to wait for the actual book to come out. So I like sent her a PDF. And I love this. Every time a new person joins one of the Facebook groups and asks a question that like all the newbies ask, because it's the first thing that everybody wants to know, she posts a picture of the book and she says, oh, there's this wonderful resource. So, I mean, that's above and beyond, but I love that. There's a little initiative that I am trying to get off the ground. And again, this is still early days. So I'm also wide open to suggestions for how to do this in a smarter way than I'm doing it. But I'm calling it Give a Doc a Book.
Oh.
And my thinking is that medical professionals, even if they're not breast surgeons or oncologists or other people who are working with this population specifically, they are encountering a huge volume of patients, and they are likely to know things about what's going on with them medically. And so I started out by giving a copy of the book to a really wonderful plastic surgeon who I had consulted for some material in the book. And then I thought, okay, well, so who else can I give it to? And I gave it to my primary care doctor. I gave it to my oncologist. I'm not kidding. I gave it to my podiatrist last week. You never know, right? They are in touch with all of these people and they know what's going on in their lives. And I do think that the medical profession can play a really big role and have a big impact in getting the word out on this. So Give a Doc a Book. And then of course, if you have a friend who is going through this, who is either thinking about explanting or who has gotten a new diagnosis, if you want to pass on your copy to her or send her a copy of her own, that's also really appreciated.
I like that. I've heard just on the support groups online on Facebook, I've heard multiple people who read through the book and just devoured the book, and they're giving it to their surgeon or their oncologist to put in the patient resource library at their cancer center. Yeah, and that's what I'm going to do with my first copy too.
More copies
on its way to Cleveland Clinic at some point.
So Kim, I want to turn this around because you've been asking a lot of questions, but not everyone in the audience will necessarily know is what you have been busy with, and your organization, Not Putting on a Shirt, has been very busy indeed this year and has scored some pretty impressive victories. So could I ask you to fill us in on some of the work you've been doing?
Sure. Advocacy Recap. So just to preface, there are a lot of advocates working on all of these fronts. And some of the things I'm going to mention are not things that we specifically were involved with, but they're just major milestones that I just can't wait to get the word out about. So I'll just preface it by saying that. So it has been a really busy year. We saw legislation in New York State, which ensures insurance coverage for aesthetic flat closure services, including revision surgery. That's with the fix-it surgery, of course, but for those in the audience who have not read your wonderful book yet, it's that fix-it surgery, revision, that sometimes is denied by insurance companies because they consider it to be cosmetic rather than reconstructive. So the New York law just closes that little loophole and ensures insurance coverage for those services. And we're hoping that that'll serve as a template for the federal law so that everyone will be protected under that federal umbrella. And that bill was a collaboration between my organization and legislators, and it was made possible by hard work and support by an organization called Flat Retreat Community. They're another group of advocates. You can check them out online. They organize in-person retreats for women living flat. So that's the New York legislation. That was a big win. That's the first time we've had success with flat closure legislation. So that's a historic thing. Yay. Thank you, Stacy Pfeffer-Amato from New York, District 23. So we also attended a few professional conferences to educate medical providers about aesthetic flat closure, and we used our new brochure as an outreach tool there. And once again, Flat Retreat Community's support was critical. They produced a really great video that you can find on our website of flat women talking about their surgical experiences. It's about a half-hour long, I want to say. So we also joined forces with Stand Tall AFC for aesthetic flat closure. They're a visibility campaign, and we have about a dozen events that are going to happen during the month of October to promote body positivity and awareness about aesthetic flat closure. And lastly, I'll just say this wasn't our effort. This was an effort by Robin Tout and Andrea Otaiano, other flat advocates. The National Comprehensive Cancer Network now includes specific information about flat closure in all of their patient guidelines for breast cancer. That was a huge win. And I think the doctors listening will recognize NCCN. The average layperson may not, but it's a big deal to have that change. That means that institutions are starting to recognize flat closure as a legitimate, reconstructive choice that deserves aesthetic attention. And if you notice a theme with all these things that I've mentioned, you're right. It's all about collaboration, working together, each person contributing what they can. I was just so thrilled early in the year to hear about your book, your plans for your book. And I feel really privileged to have been able to contribute those illustrations. I know this book is going to help countless women, If I had had this book when I had facing surgery, it would have been a totally different outcome, I guarantee. So I want to see a copy in every cancer center across the nation and beyond. As I said before, that's my goal for your book.
I love your goal for my book.
Yeah, that's my goal. So thank you so much, Kat, for this.
Thank you really profoundly for all the help that you've given me on this. Kim, you left out one thing, which is you in April, I want to say, also attended a conference and spoke there. And there was like a presentation about flat closure to—
Oh yeah, the American Society of Breast Surgeons. Yeah, we attended that conference. Sorry, I'm a little dry here. That is an annual conference held by the main professional society for breast surgeons in the United States. We had a booth, we were an exhibitor's booth, and we were trying to make sure that we met the medical providers where they were at in their forums to really get on their level and see what they need help with to support their patients who are making this choice, or at least considering this choice. And yeah, for the first time, aesthetic flat closure was there was a talk given on that by Dr. Deanna Atai, a former president of the American Society of Breast Surgeons. As a matter of fact, she gave a talk on that and included her research on flat closure. She's a pioneer in the flat closure research field. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind year, and I'm just so happy that we're getting traction, because really every woman deserves to know about going flat as an option and deserves to have their choice respected. And whatever we can do to make that happen, that's what we're doing and we'll continue to do.
Yeah, it's really having a huge impact. I mean, I definitely feel like I'm hearing just a different approach a lot with doctors when I'm talking to them. Like there's an awareness that just was not there, and among women as well. But yes,
it's going to be a sea change. It is a sea change, and it's happening.
Yeah, yep. And you take a lot of credit for that. You should.
A team effort.
So I don't know if you had any other questions, Kim. I thought maybe we would see if there were any questions from the folks listening in.
Yeah.
Something into the chat.
So Tony is our housekeeping manager here.
Yeah. And
So
especially if you have questions for Dr. Lawrence or for Wendy, that would be great.
As of now, we don't have any questions, although a patient of the president of the Association of Breast Surgeons said that she gave a copy to her.
Oh, that's great.
I guess Deanna's successor.
So Deanna's successor has a copy of Kat's book?
Correct.
Wow. Okay, then.
Here's a question for Kim. Are there any AFC organizations in Australia?
Oh boy, there's no nonprofits that I know of. You should email me. Go to notputtingonashirt.org and go to the contact form and contact me. I'm blanking on her name right now. There is a flat advocate in Australia. I believe she goes by Unbreasted on social media. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. There's so many wonderful advocates, but we do have an advocate in Australia who is on our Council of International Advocates. And if you want to get in touch with her, I can put you in touch.
Wonderful. And we have a hand raised from Paula Williams. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. I don't have a question. I just want to tell everyone how happy I am to be a part of this. And I'll be having a double mastectomy next week. Dr. Lawrence is my talented surgeon, so I know I'm in great hands. And I just want to express how wonderful it was when I did tell her that I chose to be flat, and she was completely understanding. I had a whole bunch of notes on why I made that decision, but I didn't even need to whip them out because she was just so compassionate. And I just want to publicly thank her and ask you all to keep both of us in your prayers next week.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll be thinking of you. But you are in such good hands. That makes me feel really good.
Thank you, Paula.
One of the things that my sister told me about Dr. Lawrence that made me think, oh yeah, this is the person I want to work with, was when Lori said, oh, my sister is going through this and this is the choice she made. Camelia said, that is exactly what I would have done if I were in her position. And I thought, oh, I want to talk to her.
I saw a hand up earlier from Dion. Is that right? Here, I can unmute you. There you are.
There we go. Hi, Kat. Thanks, Tony. I can probably figure this out, but I guess I just thought I would ask you, Kat, or maybe Kim, if I want to give this book to someone who doesn't have a Kindle, like what's the literal process? Because I can't hand a copy of it to someone.
Paperback.
What's that?
Paperback.
And how do so that I can get that version?
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Fabulous.
That
Good,
is
good.
on Amazon. Yeah. Just not hardcover. Paperback and ebook are both available on Amazon.
Awesome.
I think it's
Okay.
important. Kat, I was going to say, I think it's important for the audience to know that you can literally just easily order on Amazon and send it to someone who's facing a mastectomy as a
Yes.
gift through Amazon. So you place the order and you gift it to whoever you'd like it to receive the book.
Yeah, and it's 2-day shipping, no less. So
Any other questions for Camelia or Wendy?
I see someone with their hand up. Patricia.
Trisha. Sorry, I saw and lost your hand.
Oh no.
Where are you in my list? There we are. You can unmute.
Okay, there I am. I just wanted to clarify that I gave a copy to my surgeon who I just had surgery 2 weeks ago with, Dr. Johnson. She's the president. I didn't give a copy to the outgoing one. I don't know her. I just know Dr. Johnson, who is in Portland, Oregon. That's where I live. So I just wanted to clarify that. That's all.
Patricia, how are you doing after your surgery?
I'm doing good. She gave me a Goldilocks. That's what I asked for. And yeah, my energy's coming back. You see, I still have chemo hair, no hair. But yeah, it was 2 weeks ago today that I had my surgery. And I've got the, that burning kind of sensation in my chest, the, the nerve kind of thing. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well. And yeah, thanks for writing the book.
Thanks for reading it.
That's great. Goldilocks is a relatively new option for those of you who are listening that don't know. Do you want to describe it, Kat?
Well, actually, I was going to ask Dr. Lawrence, would you do the honors on that?
Oh yeah, there you go. Of course.
Well, I think that the premise behind the Goldilocks is that you're using your own autologous sort of the skin to reconstruct a breast mount, as opposed to using a tissue expander or an implant or any other foreign body for the reconstruction.
Or bringing tissue from some other part of the body as well. You're using the tissue that's right there.
You're using a tissue that's right there. It has grown traction over the years, and more patients are electing it's an alternative to undergoing a reconstruction using foreign body or autologous tissue from other parts.
Mhm.
And it gives you like well, Patricia, I
It's
don't.
not, it's not the size of the breast. Now, these are usually women who are content with a smaller size breast, because if you think about it, you're still undergoing a mastectomy, so you're removing the entire breast. But if you have, a certain amount of skin that's there, it can be sort of rolled or, attempt to use it to replace a breast mount.
Mhm. And not all surgeons offer it, correct?
Correct. Not all surgeon offers it. Yeah.
We have a question from Jennifer Perry.
Hi,
Hi.
Kat. You look gorgeous, Kat.
Hey, thanks.
Sorry, I'm a little in the dark here. You are a talented writer. And so I am very interested in your writing process for the personal stories that you have mentioned. I have not had a chance to read the book yet. And I'm wondering how you found these women and if they wrote their stories for you, if it was more of a little oral history, and how you went about crafting those stories into something that was beneficial and motivational for your readers.
Thank you for asking that question, Jennifer. Actually, a couple of the people who I interviewed, so I see Linnea is here, and I also saw Melanie. I don't know if anybody else, I haven't been able to scroll through all of the people, but I'd be curious to hear how you felt about that process. But basically how I found people was through Facebook. Facebook has a number of fairly sizable at this point groups for women who have gone flat or who are contemplating going flat. And I sort of stalked a little bit. I looked at what people were posting and in some cases reached out to them specifically and said, hey, you mentioned this thing that happened to you. That seems like a story that would be really beneficial for more women to hear. Would you be interested in talking to me about it? And then I also, in some cases, just like put out these blanket requests like, hey, I'm looking for people who have had different experiences from mine. Would you be willing to be interviewed? And then sort of culled through to see what kind of stories people were coming to me with. And then I just set up interviews one-on-one to talk through what that experience was, and just frantically typed everything they wrote. Crafted that into a sort of a concise narrative, and then sent it back to them for approval. And in some cases, people really had a lot of, like Melanie and I went back and forth a lot because she had a very keen interest in the way that was all going to sound. And so it was a very collaborative process and really delightful. And what was so cool about it was that it allowed me to develop these connections that I otherwise wouldn't have had, that also then fostered this really rich part of the book. Linnea, could you tell a little bit about the story that you shared? It was actually really amazing timing with Linnea because it was happening in real time. Tony,
Okay. It was interesting. I am not the type of person to talk about myself. I hate being the center of attention, but I know a lot of the stuff that I was going through, a lot of other people had with my original mastectomy being denied after it was pre-approved. I got the huge bill from the hospital and had to fight that. My surgeon was very supportive. I told her I wanted the AFC, and I didn't even know the correct term, but I said, can I go flat and stay flat? And she was like, I would love if you would do that. And I didn't see that a lot in the groups. It was, I had to fight for this, or my surgeon pushed me for implants. And I'm like, mine love the idea. So there are good surgeons out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But what I loved about your story was, we did the interview and you had gotten this bill and you were disputing it, but you didn't have an answer yet. And then by the time I had sort of crafted the narrative and dropped it into where I thought it was going to sit in the book, I got a message from you saying, hey, guess what? My appeal went through and they are retracting the charge. So, we got this happy ending in real time. So that was really great. Melanie, what were your thoughts about going through that process?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I'm going to sound coherent. I'm quite shy. But I did really enjoy the process talking to Kat. I didn't realize I was so troublesome. I didn't know that I was the one
Not troublesome,
with
involved,
whom you went
passionate.
back and forth so much. I was very concerned, very concerned about the message that was coming across, knowing that so many, because there will be so many women reading the book. I was concerned. I don't know I just wanted my message to come across. Really explaining what I had experienced and not, stepping on, I didn't want to step on anybody's feet either, or make anyone feel bad, or it sounds very vague, but anyways, I was concerned about that. And, Kat worked with me, and and I enjoyed the process. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, that's all right. And no, you were not troublesome at all. What I loved was that you really wanted you wanted it to be right. And I want that too, right? So you were very much approaching it the way I was approaching it, which is like, this is a thing that needs to be crafted until it is as good as it can possibly be. So that made me really happy, actually.
Perfect.
We have a question from Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah. Hi, Kim. Kat, I wanted to know if there's any not-for-profit or some way that if I got some donations to purchase books that we could, I know there are women who would probably, this give a book, a DACA book is something, it just intrigued me tremendously. And I'm sure there are a lot of women who, if we gave them a book and told them to give it to a doc, they would.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if we could think about or some way to kind of get that materialized. I'd love to be able to get some people to kind of buy a bunch of books in bulk, and we can get them to women to give to their doctors.
Great, let's do it. I love it.
Okay.
Let's talk.
I think that's a, give a doc a book is I think one of the great ways to go.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to mention Joe Amato there was instrumental in that New York legislation. It would not have been passed without Joe. So thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
No other hands at this moment.
No, I see Anne's comment. The book is so well designed. Thank you. I will pass that along to Jasmine. I love the work that she did too. I'm so pleased with how approachable and kind the design of the book is. So thank you for calling that out.
Yeah, for a book that contains so much technical information, it really is very well organized so that it's easy to glean what you need from each section without necessarily having to go into the weeds for every section. It's just, it is very well designed. I would agree with that.
And I have to say that the illustrations play a huge role in that too. Like Kim and I went back and forth a little bit at the beginning to try to figure out exactly what the illustration style was going to be, because good balance between technical and personal. That was exactly what we were looking for throughout. So we didn't want it to feel like a medical text. We didn't want it to feel too cartoonish. We wanted it to feel relatable. We also wanted to make sure that we were showcasing a nice variety of, we didn't do body types because that would have been too complicated to create all the different body models, but at least, different hair, different styles, different humans, so that it felt like it was for everyone. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I love the cover too. Tony Frost is saying t-shirts. So yeah, one of the thoughts that I have had is, and I actually created a t-shirt for myself with the cover, the logo on it. And I almost wore it tonight, but then I realized that you wouldn't be able to see it at all because it's below the Zoom box. But that is one of the things that I've been thinking about, is if there were any interest in merch of any kind, that we might create Flat and Happy t-shirts and mugs and stuff, and that the proceeds from that, if there were any proceeds, could go to not putting on a shirt to continue their advocacy work. So that's a thing I'm thinking about. If anybody's interested in talking about that, let me know. sounds like that's probably it, right?
Yeah, I don't see any more questions.
Oh,
Oh, there's Melanie has another comment or
Yeah,
question.
hold on. There we are.
I'm back. Not so shy anymore because I'm not put on the spot. I'm hoping that that it gets into many women's hands, that the book gets traction, because the French community is really hoping for a translation. So crossing our fingers. I've put the word out in the French community, and some women who speak English have the book already, but many don't. So we're hoping for a translation.
Et peut-être que toi-même, tu pourrais le
Ouh.
traduire?
Non, je pense pas.
Non.
non, je pense pas, mais sûrement quelqu'un d'autre le ferait avec joie.
D'accord, on trouvera quelqu'un.
Parfait. Merci.
So how do you say aesthetic flat closure in French?
Oh, now I'm on the spot again.
Sorry.
Nope, it's not going to happen. I'll look it up and then I'll get back to you.
All right.
Okay, well, I think then all I can say is thank you to all of you for joining us, and especially Camelia, Wendy, Kim. So appreciate you and everything that you've done. And
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kat. Thank you for all of the work that you've done here. It's so important. And I think those people who are thinking about purchasing the book, and I think you'll find when you read it that you're just going to be blown away by the level of detail and the organization and just the utility of it. It's one of those books where now that it's here and we have it, it's going to be, in another year or two, it's going to be hard to imagine ever not having that as a resource. It's that important.
Yeah.
So thank you, Kat.
Yeah, thanks for having the courage, Kat, and the thoughtfulness to share your story with others. I think this book is going to be so impactful for so many women. One of the things I really liked about this book is that it can literally be read and appreciated by any woman facing a mastectomy, whether you elect to proceed with a flat aesthetic closure or you elect to proceed with reconstruction. It's just a wealth of information. So that's great. So thank you for that.
thank you for that. All right, everybody, have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Mhm.